Hello candidates, it is a pleasure to reach you this afternoon. This is Mr. Knight reaching you from Good Times, and I'm going to take you through SST, which is a continuation of the topic which was introduced previously by Mr. Kabugo, later on built on by Mr. Otim. I'm therefore coming in with the third episode. Our topic is nationalism and the road to independence, and therefore me today I want to talk about the roles played by Pan Africanists during Pan Africanism. But before I begin, I want to begin with the new words, and the new words include conference, 2, association, 3, advancement, 4, intellectual, 5, struggle. Candidates, these words we are most likely to meet them as we go on. And these words, we are going to look at the meaning of each of these words. And to begin with is conference. Conference is a formal meeting for discussing matters of concern. I say the conference is a formal meeting for discussing matters of concern. Then 2 is association. Association is an organized group of people with similar interests. I said association is an organized group of people with similar interests. Then 3, we want to look at advancement. Advancement is an act of moving forward or being raised to a higher rank. I said advancement is an act of moving forward or being raised to a higher rank. Then 4, we are going to look at intellectual. The word intellectual means a logical way of thinking or doing a serious study. I said intellectual means a logical way of thinking or doing a serious study. Then lastly, we are going to look at struggle. The word struggle means to fight for something. Simply means to fight for something. As I said, we are going to look at the roles played by Pan Africanists during Pan Africanism, and we are going to begin with such as Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, in the previous topic or subtopic with Mr. Otim, we talked about those nationalists, those Pan Africanists, and where they lived, and I'm going to discuss with you the roles these Pan Africanists played during the struggle in Pan Africanism. And I said we are to begin with Marcus Garvey. He founded Universal Negro Improvement Association, which is abbreviated as UNIA, which is abbreviated as UNIA. And this association was meant to promote the rights of Africans. Then 2, he founded a newspaper called Negro World. In the previous lesson, Mr. Otim told you that one of the methods they used was newspapers, so that they would publish their interests to other people, so that they would read and know what they wanted. So this man, Marcus Garvey started or founded a newspaper, which is the Negro World. He also advised Africans to start businesses. Why did he want Africans to start businesses? He wanted to have, to empower Africans economically so that they would easily manage their struggles. He preached equality for races and cultural growth. He preached equality for races and cultural growth. Because when he came up, these people, the whites, had started depriving the culture, undermining the culture of Africans. So this man came up and said, let us see how best we can have our culture move on. Another person I want to talk about is called Sylvester Williams. He's called Sylvester Williams. And this gentleman, his roles were basically these. He organized the first Pan African Conference in 1900, which took place in London. And why conference? That's why I told you that we shall meet these words. This meeting was meant to see how best these people would plan and have their freedom. He paid for the Pan African Conference of 1900. In other words, he is the one who sponsored that meeting, which took place in London in 1900. The third one, we are going to look at Dr. William Dubois. We are going to look at Dr. William Dubois. He organized the Pan African Conference in 1919. He organized the Pan African Conference in 1919. He encouraged the blacks to unite or to come together. Why come together? They were to come together purposely for the interest of fighting for their freedom and rights. He encouraged blacks to start to work hand in hand with the whites so that they would emulate some of the political systems from the whites and use them or apply them after they have attained their freedom or their rights. He encouraged the Negroes to struggle and win equality of rights. Why rights? Because their rights had been deprived, they had been violated, and therefore he had to see how best these Negroes would have their rights restored. He was the founder member of Negro Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which is abbreviated as NAACP. He was a founder member of Negro Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Then the fourth, we are going to look at Booker T. Washington. This man also played a very big role as a Pan Africanist. So these are his contributions. He encouraged Africans to improve their welfare through education. Because if these people had acquired education, then it would be very easy for them to fight or to communicate using the language which these whites could understand and demand their freedom. He organized the Pan African Conference in 1945. These conferences, we shall look at them in the next topic or subtopic, but they were meant to unite, to share ideas as regards to Pan Africanism. He fought against racial segregation because these people, the whites, did not want the blacks to mix up with them. They could separate them in terms of color in terms of major color. And whenever they could see black people, they could not count them human beings. So he fought against that racial segregation, so that these people would uniformly mix up with the whites. He encouraged patience and hard work among the Negroes. Why hard work and patience? Because this struggle for freedom was a journey which required patience, because it would take a long time for these Africans to have their freedom restored. So that's why he encouraged them to have that patience and to work hard towards achieving their freedom. Then the fifth one, we are going to look at Edward Wilmot Blyden. That was another great man, or a great Pan-Africanist. He educated people in West Africa about Pan-Africanism, because some of these people were ignorant why these Pan-Africanists came up with the idea of Pan-Africanism. So he had to come in so that these people would be informed and are not caught unaware when these people brought their opinions. So he had to educate them so that they could comprehend why these people had come up as Pan-Africanists. He encouraged Africans to love and preserve their culture. Why preserving their culture? Because culture is a base of everything. Because it includes very many things, language, work. So if these Africans did not love and preserve their culture, it would be hard for them to fight to have their freedom. So this man encouraged love and the preservation of African culture. He wrote books which taught Africans not to regard themselves as inferiors. So this was meant, these books he published were meant to have these Africans own themselves. In other words, to be confident that they would fight and win the whites and have their freedom. That's why he said that these people should not regard themselves as inferiors. Candidates, I want you to take these things very serious. He encouraged the study of African history and languages in schools. Because if we don't have a language and which is understood by everybody, then it becomes a challenge to communicate. So this man, Blyden, encouraged African history and language and taught these learners where they could, taught these Africans who were learners that they would understand the language and fight for their freedom. Then we also want to look at J.E.K Aggrey. This is yet another prominent Pan-Africanist who encouraged Africans to value education. This man was a great man. He encouraged Africans to value education. Then he also encouraged Africans to cooperate with whites in order to progress. Because these Africans previously did not comprehend why they went to schools. So he is this man who encouraged them to value education and work hand in hand with the whites and receive or achieve their progress. Then we have Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. This man is a great man and was the first African to host the Pan African Conference. He organized the Pan African Conference, which took place in 1958 in Ghana. This conference is also called the Accra Conference. So he was a great man. Why did he organize this conference? This conference was meant for those Africans who had not known about Pan-Africanism to merge there and share opinions on how best they would achieve their freedom. Then lastly, I want to talk about Leopold Senghor. This was a very great man in West Africa. Was a very great man in West Africa. He formed the Negritude Intellectual Movement, which is abbreviated as NIM, whose role was to promote African culture. So this movement was intended to promote African culture. Then he also founded the Black Students newspaper, which wrote experiences of Africans in France. Why did he want Africans to know? He wanted them to know what was happening so that they would solve whatever problem they encounter. Lastly, candidates, I want to give you a research question. And this research question is research on the methods used by Pan-Africanists and the problems they faced in their struggle. So that you will present it in the next lesson. Thank you very much for attending my lesson. May the good Lord bless you there.